They really just want to do the best they can. But ultimately, there's a lot of them that end up floundering and kind of failing and flopping at twitches. And it kind of comes out to those that don't even get off the ground and those that aren't sustainable. If you ever pick up one of the Uptime Elements implementation guide, it is a book that's this thick and half of it is filled with failures. Failure is the most wonderful teacher. Why does the 80% fail? Why does the 20% succeed? Ultimately, why reliability initiatives fail has nothing to do with the technical activities of reliability. Kind of need to know how to make a business case and how to get an aligned strategy. We have to know what the problems are. Now, most people in their facilities, they know what these problems are. What you need to do is get the data. You have to define data. And more importantly, not having data is data. And that's one thing we have to make clear. If you're unable to get the data today to prove this, that's still important information. We can't even tell you how bad the problem is. So usually this comes from a myriad of sources, mainly the CMMS, right? You pull whatever work order history you have or whatever the failure rates are off of your HMI or whatever you can to try to illustrate the need. What is the thing I'm trying to solve for? And that usually makes life easier when you come in with concrete problems. And it can't be just about, it cost me $10,000 in maintenance. It has to be an organizational definement. Don't just tell me that you lost an hour downtime. Help me translate to whatever my customer base is or what it costs the whole organization. If it costs $50,000 an hour for outage, that plus your maintenance cost was the true cost of the organization. That's what the type of information you need to know. Next is we have to not necessarily create an entire organizational alignment between what the problem is from an up top or point of view, and you have to draw that line all the way down to what it is you plan on doing and how you measure it. A lot of the times what we find is what's going on up here, what they're saying is important and where they want to go and what they want to do versus what we're trying to do down here are not in alignment. If their organizational mission statement and vision is zero disruption of service for my clients and blah, 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 and you're down here trying to minimize your maintenance costs, you're not necessarily working in the same direction. So we have to be able to say, the problems that I'm experiencing down here are actually influencing what we're saying we want to do up here. And you have to be able to break that down piece by piece by piece. Essentially, you need to break down and show clear alignment that your reliability program is going to be directly contributable to what they determine is important to the organization. Now, leadership does not mean executive sponsorship. These are two different things. An executive sponsor is the guy that gives you the resources that you need, the clearance that you need, helps pave the way for your program to work. Those leaders that are going up and down this chain from the factory floor all the way up there, those are the ones that will enable your strategy to work at all. If the lead planner doesn't want to play ball and there's no one making him do it, he'll stop your program. If the lead tech decides it's a waste of time to enter in that failure data because he's never seen anybody use it, don't know what it's for, you're never going to get it, right? So you got to go up and down, kind of like a big campaign, a big marketing campaign, trying to sell how this is going to help the company, and this is going to help identify the what's in it for me for some of those leaders throughout the organization. However that is, right? This is pretty broad guidance, but this is what we see in those 20% that work versus that 80% that don't. They get some of these people in a room, they understand their pain points, they align what they're trying to do with those pain points to solve for a larger goal. You need to give some high-level milestones and have a way to measure them, right? Don't go in there and say, we'll figure it out as we go along. That doesn't give people confidence that your program's going to be there in a month. This is what we're going to do. This is kind of how we try to measure it. Now, this is a little mature because it kind of needs to be. You need to have your best foot forward. You need to do your homework. And those milestones and those deliverables, whatever it is that you're planning on doing, need to be attainable. Do not try to eat the entire elephant. You may have to drop and shift to achieve what you need to achieve or change your plans and come back to them later to make good. And that gets to the most important part. People. We're trying to make people more efficient, to make better choices. And the same goes with any other type of reliability program. The idea of getting technology in place is the means to the end. It's not the source itself. We're not there to just slap technology in and there's my reliability program. That does not work. This gets down to understanding how they can support the program and what level of engagement we should be expecting. Who needs to be directly involved and bought in and contributing? Who definitely needs to be supporting it? Standard RACI, nothing really crazy there, but we have to make sure that that's understood before you go and start assigning work. Remember, this is about establishing that program. I'm going to need the planner in the room when we talk about setting up planning and scheduling. I'm going to need the lead technicians in here when we start talking about human capital management and competency-based learning. You're going to need a lot of help from a lot of different pieces of your organization. The reliability people do not own reliability. They own unreliability. When you start to get to the point when you're trying to action something, I'm a big fan of the 4C method. Communication, collaboration, consensus, and commitment. So when you're starting to put that whole plan and you got your KPIs listed out and you're starting to track what is or is not happening and you have your updates, communication is king. Everybody needs to know what's going on. Over-communicate, be annoying. And that's not a joke. Be annoying with how much you're trying to tell these people what you're trying to do. They do not work in a vacuum. What you'll find is if you don't collaborate and bring them in, they'll ignore you. Your program will just be something that you're doing and it won't go anywhere. Consensus. Everybody needs to agree, at least broad conceptually, of what we're trying to do and what we're trying to achieve. Commitment. Getting people to do what they say they're going to do. We all agree this is what we're going to do, right? Right. Problems will arise, as they do. So you have to talk about those issues. But more importantly, you're going to want to talk about these issues to resolve them, but you're also going to want to celebrate and communicate out those wins as much as possible. Sometimes communicating out the failures can also be beneficial. This did not work. Please do not repeat this, right? We found out this approach does not work. Continuous improvement. You need to come back and really evaluate of whether or not the program that you're trying to get in there, once you get it kind of stood up, is working long term. This gets into a lot of organizations where it fails to be sustainable comes in. They come in with a really short-sighted plan to get their reliability up, to focus on a few key issues. Then when those issues are resolved, a lot of them just kind of stop because that's the program. We always have to make sure that we are open and honest to the idea that things will need to be continuously improved. You are effectively Sisyphus once you start down this road. So Sisyphus is the guy that's always pushing the boulder up the hill. Regardless of how far he gets up the hill, he wakes up the next day at the bottom with the rock again. You're never done. It's one of those types of jobs. Welcome to reliability. You need to be able to show the pain, and you need to use data to do that. Do not make it about what you say. Make it about the data says this. Make it all about something that they already know, but now you have data that articulates it. Don't just say, I want to do some condition monitoring. No, that can't be good enough. I want to do this to monitor these assets this way using this method. Have a defined plan. Communication, collaboration, consensus, and commitment. Be annoying. Some people will not listen to you until they've heard it several times. What gets measured gets done. Do not set up a program that you cannot measure its effectiveness. More importantly, not measure its effectiveness to those aligned goals. Review. Talk about your issues, celebrate your wins. Right? More importantly, continuous improvement. That's how you make it sustainable, is by changing. You can't set up a program then never touch it again. It needs to change in order to effectively be sustainable.